Welcome to Grace. Never heard of her. I'm Gina.
And I'm Maddie. We're two moms, two friends, two overstimulated women navigating motherhood, new identities, and careers, all while challenging society's expectations and redefining what it means to do it all.
Because Grace, well, never heard of her, but word is she's worth getting to know.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
How's it going?
Well, aside from this massive thunderstorm that's happening right behind me, it's pretty good.
Love that. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Grace. Never heard of her. Gina and I have been thoroughly enjoying bringing on guests to have some exciting conversations, some topics that are harder to talk about than others, some lighthearted topics, but ultimately other moms and women and people out there that are having experiences just like we are. And we wanted to give them and you all an opportunity to discuss, dive deeper, and hopefully feel less alone, because I think ultimately we're all probably going through different phases, stages of life. So we're really excited that today we have Lauren Jones on with us.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. And today's topic definitely is a little bit heavier. We are talking about postpartum anxiety. And just to give a little bit of context to everyone, I truly believe that it's probably way underreported. So any data that I'm throwing out there, it's probably a lot more. But there are studies that have found that as high as 43% of women, depending on their screening, are experiencing postpartum anxiety after giving birth. And EPDS, or Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale is what it's called, is the most common postpartum depression screening tool. And I think the other interesting thing as we were doing our research is that a lot of moms who get screened by this tool could be experiencing high functioning anxiety, but may be cleared as completely healthy because the scale was designed to look for depression. So unfortunately, a lot of women are being completely overlooked as well as it relates to their PPA.
Most people have heard of postpartum depression, but fewer people, I think, talk about postpartum anxiety. And what's interesting is that actually might be what's more common. What most people don't know is that for either one, they don't always look the way you'd expect. Depression doesn't always look like sadness. It can look like rage, like numbness, like going through the motions and feeling nothing. And anxiety doesn't always look like worry. It can look like a racing heart at 3 a.m. Your baby's finally asleep, but you cannot rest with these intrusive thoughts that keep going through your mind. It can look like checking the baby monitor 17 times an hour. And it can look like a dad quietly falling apart while everyone asks how moms are doing. Something that's really interesting, that's a common misconception, is that fathers can also experience postpartum anxiety and depression. So because these symptoms don't really match the pictures in our head, millions of people go through it without ever getting help. They may be convincing themselves that something's wrong with them and that it's not something happening to them that's out of their control. So we are really excited to dive deep into postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, PPD and PPA, if we reference that throughout the pod. And our guest, Lauren, is here today to share her story of where her mental health was prior to her first pregnancy and how it changed suddenly and unexpectedly in postpartum. More specifically, we'll go into what her pregnancy was like emotionally, when she realized things were not right, and when and how she asked for help. We'll then end with her advice to anyone dealing with something similar. So with that being said, I am thrilled to introduce Lauren Jones, or as I like to call her, Lolo. Or Auntie Lolo. Lo is a mom of 2 boys, 3 and 1, another fellow boy mom. Whoop, whoop. Um, to set the scene, O was 35 weeks pregnant when her husband got a job opportunity in another state that they couldn't pass up. So not only was she weeks away from giving birth to her first child, but she was actively selling her house, trying to find a new house to buy out of state. I think you guys, if I remember correctly, you guys bought sight unseen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Our realtor had seen the house and FaceTimed us, but we had not stepped foot in the house.
So new job, new house, new city, new parenthood. I mean, no wonder you had you had some trouble in postpartum, and we're gonna get into that. But we're excited to talk to you, Lo, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I love listening to the podcast because I can hear myself in some of your conversations. And it's surprising that like, oh, I've felt this before. So I really like listening. So I'm excited to kind of give back in that way.
Oh,
So thank you guys.
love that. Truly. So happy to have you. Yes, agree. Everything you were going through in those early days and months is just moms are superheroes. Just want to start with that. It is
Yep.
insane the weight of what we carry and manage to make it through. And before we go diving in deep into the trenches, let's take a big step back. Pre-kids.
Mm.
What were you like? What was life like?
Oh my gosh. It was so much fun. Mark, my husband, and I lived in Chicago and we had so much fun. I mean, we were a lot more carefree. I was a lot more go with the flow as you can be without kids. I feel like I was a homebody, but I like to be out and, Gina can probably attest. I was very much like, I'm down for anything. Do you want to have a sleepover and play flip cup at 2 a.m.? And like, we just did the craziest things and I had energy and I was in my 20s and a lot more carefree. So I was never type A by any means, but when I had responsibility for something, I was very passionate about it. Like if I was the hostess, I was tried to be the best hostess I could be. A little perfectionism there, but nothing crazy. No major anxiety. I was living a little in the clouds probably.
Well, and as a friend of yours pre-kids, I can echo everything that you just said. When I think of anybody who's stressed, anxious, perfectionist type A, you are not somebody that came to mind or comes to mind. I actually probably am describing myself pre-kids, but no, I agree. I just knew you as a friend that was just down for whatever, go with the flow, and yeah, just super chill.
And I mean, outside of that, did you know you wanted to have kids? Was that always on the roadmap?
No. So, I think I grew up, like, thinking like, most little girls, it's just like you're groomed into being into motherhood, like, it's just the expectation of society, so I didn't really question it. But as I got into college, it was a little more, "Okay, like, where do I want my life to go?" And as Mark and we got married when we were 24 years old, so we were young, and we didn't get married to have kids. We did it was had what, 7 years married before we decided to have kids, and it was not something that I took lightly. I wanted to be sure. I would rather have not had kids if I wasn't sure than to have kids and then regret that decision. I wanted to be very intentional about bringing a kid into the world, and so I didn't know, and I didn't know, and I didn't know, and then I knew. It's just it suddenly hits you like a train, and
Yeah.
I wanted a child more than anything. It was kind of a crazy switch, maybe biology or maybe just right timing, but we did not know until we knew.
Wow. That's a very mature, I feel like, way to kind of plan and think about your family planning because I think it was just like, "Oh, yeah, this is what
What's
we
next?
do, like, sure, let's go for it," and here you are like, "Oh, yeah, I wanted to be sure." I'm like, "Yeah, let's see what happens," so props to you, that's
Thank
amazing.
you. No, but we knew that we did want to have kids, and I once I knew, it was like, okay, I wanted it, but I don't think I thought as much about the parenting as much as
Yep.
one should. Like, I thought
Mm,
about the pregnancy and having a baby, but
Yeah.
I didn't think about having a 3-year-old or a teenager or,
Oh,
it just didn't, like, dawn on me that, like, I'd have to figure out how to raise a and cultivate every aspect of a child. It didn't the weight of what you're doing didn't quite I know that, like, I wanted to be intentional and think about it, but you don't the weight doesn't hit you until you do it. So,
Yeah.
you can plan and be so sure and so ready. We were. When we got pregnant, we were ready, but, like, it doesn't mean it's gonna be perfect, and you don't know everything going into it.
Absolutely not.
well, and Lo, I don't think you're alone in that thought. I can
No.
speak for myself. I thought of cuddling a cute little newborn and changing diapers. I
Yep.
too did not think about toddler years and adding another one potentially into the mix. So, yeah, I mean, maybe there's a reason. I think maybe it's like some form of amnesia because if we really thought about it too hard, we'd be, we might be like, actually, not
Maybe
for
not.
me.
Well, there's
Uh,
probably also an aspect of over preparing where then you have this vision of what you think life's going to look like, and that's also not realistic for children. And as we all know, it's a case by case basis. Like each of our kids is so incredibly different, and the parenting tactics and styles that work on one don't work on the other, which is
Yep.
fun for all. So it is. I mean, yeah, I don't know if you had. I feel like my only North Star, if you will, was as we started getting into it, just knowing like what I didn't want to do.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. I knew what kind of parent I didn't wanna ever spank or hit my kids or, like, be an angry or mean mom, but, like, I didn't know all the different parenting styles and what was good for my kid. I hadn't heard of, all these different doctors and psychologists that now are all over my Instagram feed, like,
like
it's
Dr. Becky.
like Dr. Becky, who I love,
I do too. I do too.
but there's so many different things that you can consume like, in the media that like, there's all these different things that as soon as I got pregnant, I swear to God, my TikTok algorithm was just inundated me with all these things, like and it was overwhelming. Like, it was probably the same for you guys, but, like, once you start really, like, you get pregnant and then you're like, "Oh my gosh, like, I have to figure out what kind of bottle I'm gonna use. Am I gonna breastfeed? Am I gonna feed formula?" I mean, I know you've had that conversation before, but it's like you have all these thoughts that all of a sudden you're like, "Now I have to figure out what type of parent I wanna be." And that's like a whole life-changing thing in and of itself, right? Like, just getting pregnant and being like, "Oh my god, now I have to think of all this," and, that's before the child is even there.
Yeah. So let's actually dig into that a little bit more. Okay, now you're pregnant. It's here. Talk to us about the course of that, we'll say 35 next 35 weeks up until up until your life kind of turned upside down with the move and everything. How did you feel mentally? Like you mentioned there's so much more to think about. Was it an exciting, optimistic feeling of what's ahead? Was it kind of a, oh, that's a tomorrow problem?
I think it was a little bit of both. I was optimistic and also nervous, and, like, the whole thing is, like, daunting, but I was so excited. It's what I wanted, and Gina, I know you remember at 14 weeks, my
Oh,
precious, beautiful baby dog passed away when I was 14 weeks pregnant, and it was sudden. I mean, she was old, she was 12, but she had a brain tumor, and it was very sudden and traumatizing, and you're pregnant, and I'm like, "Can I do this without my first baby?" And I think that was the first, like, reality kind of, like, slap in the face that, like, "Oh my god, I can't take care of anything and or everything." Like, I couldn't keep my baby safe. So it became have to like, I was almost scared to give birth because I knew I could keep my baby safe in the womb. It just became like,
yeah.
this is where my baby is the safest, and I did not love pregnancy.
Well, you were also pregnant for like 42 weeks, so
Oh my God. Yes.
that's not an
I know,
exaggeration,
Maddie.
Maddie's
I'm
face right now.
sorry. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Oh my
She
Yeah.
did
gosh.
she
My
did those monthly bump pics, and it was like, "Smile, smile, smile," and then towards the end, she was hanging by a thread. You
you
could tell
could
she was hanging by
see.
a thread. Yeah. I was like, "Oh my somebody get this baby out of this poor girl, seriously." Oh.
It was, I mean, yeah, pregnancy, I was textbook pregnant. Like nothing went wrong. It was all very like easy, but you can't tell, but I am 5'3". I was like 120 before I got pregnant, and I grow out because there's nowhere for the baby to grow up. And so once I popped, it was like I didn't pop till like 20 weeks, but then it was the
I don't
comments from strangers
yeah.
flooded.
I I don't know how you didn't topple over. Like, I genuinely don't know how you stood straight.
Yeah, I was so big, and this baby, so Augie, my first, was 10 pounds 2 ounces when he was born.
Well, 42 weeks. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, what doctor let you go to 42
That's what I
weeks?
say. Lo was probably so annoyed with me because I kept saying, "No, your doctor's not going to let you go that long." And she's like, "Well, it's not like a medical reason, so they're not prioritizing me." And I was like, "No, you're
I
wrong."
don't
And
think
I was wrong.
I don't think I've ever heard of someone actually
Me either.
my aunts and that
Right?
generation, maybe, but
Yeah,
our generation?
I
Wow.
know.
Wow, you
And
deserve.
my doctor fought so hard to get me a spot, but it was right before Memorial Day 3 years ago, and he was born on
Wow.
May 25th.
Oh
In
my goodness.
2023. So I went just over 41 weeks. So it didn't quite hit 42, but
Okay.
it was so busy in the hospital. People love spring babies. I don't know. Nobody wanted to give birth before Memorial Day. And it was just like, it was just crazy. Back to Gina saying that so we were moving and we closed on our house. We signed the papers and then went to the hospital on the 24th of May.
Oh my God.
We literally closed on our house and then went to the hospital. It was, I mean, just an insane turn of events. But
Were
like,
you were you, like, disassociated at this point? I mean,
I
seriously,
must have
how
been.
did you yeah, like, I genuinely don't know how you just pushed through all of
I
this.
remember Mark coming to me, calling me, laughing about this job offer. So, just some context, it's the same company he worked for in Chicago. It was just a promotion at a different plant. He works for a Coca-Cola bottling plant. So, he
I think that's important context. This isn't just like a corporate office job. Like, this is a very unique field, and these
yes.
promotions don't come along very often.
Right, and it was either stay in Chicago and wait and see if something happens or take this opportunity and, and the company had put a lot into him, got him into leaderships. I mean, it was just one of those things that, like, if he said no, they probably wouldn't have come to him with an opportunity quite like this. So, we we knew it was best for us. So he got off the phone, like, he kind of laughed at this situation. I did too. When he got home that night, we were like, we really have to think about this. And it all just kind of like happened. I mean, I know that like 35 weeks pregnant, we were in Grand Rapids so he could interview, and we were like, let's go look at houses. Oh my God, it was the worst. Looking for houses all day when you're that pregnant is torture. And obviously, we didn't have a job offer in hand. He was interviewing. So it's not like we could put an offer in. So over the next couple weeks, we're like, he gets the offer. We're like, our realtors out here FaceTiming us, like going through houses. We come out, or maybe Mark comes out a different weekend to go look at houses because I couldn't travel at that point. It was just like crazy. We put like 5 different offers in before this housing market was crazy in Michigan where we moved to. So it just became like it was just so heavy, and the tears and the we're never going to find a house. Do we rent? What are we doing? Everything like worked out. We found a house that we now love. We sold our house within days of putting it on the market. I mean, days. That everything just worked out really really well. And the closing, like, I happened to not be to have my baby yet, which was thank God. I don't
Yeah.
know what we would have done. It was just like cross our fingers and hope for the best. And so by the time we went to have Augie, it was like, okay, we could take a breath from doing all this crazy stuff that's insane for a normal person who's not having a baby. Take a
Right.
quick breath and go have a baby. It was just like, I
Yeah.
still don't know. I had to have disassociated because how does one person do all that at one time?
No, this is what I'm thinking about as you're talking. I don't know if I don't know if either of you remember or if I've told both of you this, but when I had Leo, my license expired like a couple weeks before. And I went to the DMV after. It's 2 weeks gap, right, from my expiration date to when I went to the DMV. And they're like, "Sorry, you have to retake a driving test." And I was livid. I mean, I was like, "I just had a baby. Are you kidding me?" I was so inconvenienced, so emotional. I cried. Looking back, it's hilarious. But I'm just sitting there thinking of how high my emotions were and
Mhm.
how that impacted me taking a driver's test. And you're sitting here talking about selling, moving, buying, like
To be
bravo.
fair, the DMV is a very stressful place. Like pregnant, not pregnant, newly postpartum, I might cry if someone told me. Like if someone told me get in the
100%.
car and parallel park, I'd be
Yeah.
like,
Thank you, Maddie. That's the most validating thing I've ever heard. Like, it was the worst. And Chris looked at me and was just like, wow, that sucks, as he got his new license because it wasn't expired.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, but
Dads, man.
We
I
need
know.
like the footage. Can we like contact that DMV? Is there footage of you driving?
Well,
And just finding out.
No, this is the cherry. Are you ready for this? So I go through with it all, okay? Like I say, okay, because I'm a rule follower. I took my driver's test. I passed. I hadn't taken a driver's test since I was 16. So, I was a little nervous, but we did okay. And then I go bring in all my paperwork to get my license. And it's a new person at the desk that I'm talking to. And he goes, wait, you went through all of this? Your expiration's only like 2 weeks apart. I was like, yeah, I know. Somebody told me I don't have a choice. And he's like, well, you should have just talk to a manager. We definitely could have like waived this for you. And I was the rage. I was
Oh,
literally gonna thank God that I had a baby with me. Otherwise, I would have like thrown a table. But that's
Oh
here
my
nor
God.
there. Best driver in Chicago now, No kidding. But Lo, one thing that you talked about that I want to quickly touch on because I
Yeah.
think it's really it's a very important and probably highly common thing that a lot of us mothers deal with is that feeling of not being able to keep our children safe. I resonate
Mhm.
so much to that. More
Mhm.
specifically, I feel like it comes in waves. 'Cause to your point, like after Millie died, was this wave of, oh my God. And I've had, experiences with Jonah where he falls headfirst into water that we have to pull him out and chokes on a pear and I'm giving him like, back blows. Poor Jonah, he's
Mhm.
been through it. But days and weeks after that, I'm the exact
Yep.
same way. I find myself to be way more anxious, way more like helicopter mom because there's that fear of like, oh my God, did I miss something? Was I not
Mhm.
doing my job that they got put in this situation? And so
Yep.
Maddie, I don't know, did you experience anything like that?
yeah. I know we've talked about it a little bit. I feel like they would come in spurts. Every once in a while, I would
Right.
get that, but I almost felt like I had this, like, reverse I almost wanna call it, like, Superman vision of, like, everything that Zoe went through. I feel like I had this false sense of, well, nothing worse can happen, and, like, that wasn't the case. But so anytime there was something, it felt more manageable. So there definitely was times where I did get a little bit nervous or I was like, is this really bad? And I think I always would have to ground myself in like how bad is this? And I would almost
Mhm.
look to, I think maybe we had more doctors involved, so I would kind of look to them
Oh,
to be like, do
it's
do I do
interesting.
I panic? Like, is this
Right.
okay? And so I think I almost had that safety net of, all right, this is okay. And you could almost
Yeah.
gauge it.
Yeah, like
Mm.
someone's gonna flag this. Someone's gonna tell me if I need to worry. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But I mean, again, every mom's experience is different. So I had one extreme, and then you guys are kind of on the other end of this spectrum of having these very normal thoughts. And I guess, Lo, I'm just curious, like, at what point did you think to yourself, are these normal thoughts, or am I overthinking, or maybe this is more than just what everybody else is experiencing in those early days?
Yeah, so I know, like, baby blue I knew baby blues was a thing, right? Like, the I had been warned about baby blues and women, we have this huge hormone drop after pregnancy that just like, it still blows my mind that our bodies can handle everything that it handles, but I think I knew something was wrong pretty quickly, but I didn't know the extent of it. So, Augie's birth was chaotic because he was not an emergency C-section, but a we need to get him out C-section. So it was unplanned, which was just so at first, like, I feel like that differs a little because you're on a lot of drugs when you first meet your baby, and I was numb. It was like I just didn't know what to feel. I had this little life on me that I knew I was supposed to love, and, like, logically, I knew I loved him, but I didn't have any feelings, like, I just didn't know what to feel, and I don't remember if it had to be that night, in the middle of the night, I started bawling to my husband about how much I loved Augie, and I had to keep him safe, and now I couldn't picture my life without him, and I would die without him. I, like, vividly remember crying about how much I loved him, and it, like, hit me like a ton of bricks, like, 12 hours after his birth, maybe. So I think my hormones and the drugs and all of that come down, and then I was like, "Okay, okay, I love him. This is fine. Like, maybe everything will be okay." When we got home, and again, keep in mind, I had a 10-pound baby, and when that happens, the blood sugar is all out of whack. So we ended up staying in the hospital for 5 full days because Augie had jaundice, some blood sugar stuff, and then it was a holiday. So it was a holiday weekend. So we could have gone
Wait,
down.
Lo.
Yeah.
Also, you labored for 2
Oh,
days or, like, 1 or 2 of
yes.
those days. Let's not forget that before
So
the
we
C-section.
went in Wednesday and left the following Tuesday.
Oh my
So
Nope.
it was
gosh.
like I
Nope.
labored for a long time, nothing was happening, they broke my water, which is why I had a C-section because it was just the risk of infection was too high, um, after a period of time, and same thing happened to my mom, coincidentally, and she had a 10-pound baby, her first, with my brother, so it was like the same exact story, which is such, like, a weird circle of life, but, when we got home from being at the hospital where there's always someone to care for you, and I had great night nurses who just, like, I mean, I had great nurses who helped me with all the questions I had, and so going home was a little scary because all I knew for 5 days was being in the hospital and having people there. Luckily, my mom and dad were there when I got home, and Mark just picked it up really quick. But pretty immediately, I was like, every time I was alone, I was bawling, which I was very much like, okay, these hormones are crazy. But I would like sit in the shower and cry and just like, I didn't know what was happening. Like, I was just crying. And I think that's a pretty normal thing for a new mom. Just there's so much happening. And that it didn't scare me as much because I knew about baby blues, but I remember looking at Mark once after my parents had gone, and this was the first 2 weeks, and I was like, "Nobody prepared me for this. Should we
Mhm.
have done this? I don't know if we made the right decision. Having kids, like, this is all very scary." And nothing had gone wrong. Like, we had a perfectly healthy, little, beautiful baby boy, and I didn't know how to cope with it, and so that was hard, but also still in the first 2 weeks, I was like, "Baby blues," you know? Plus, we're getting ready for a move because we moved when my son was 5 weeks. I was 5 weeks postpartum. And at that point, it was just my brain was on autopilot almost. I mean, you're in a daze already. You're taking like, trying to figure out, did I take my Motrin and Tylenol because that's all you can take after having a 7-layer surgery. Like,
But guess what they get for their vasectomies?
oh yeah, don't even get me started.
They get the
It was
Vicodin. Yeah, they get the good stuff.
Yeah, and, like, they offer you Oxy after a C-section, but it's, like, 5 or 5 whatever milligrams, I think, but they're, like, they, like, caution you against it, and, like, I'm just like, I can't even stand up. Like,
Yeah.
it was so I think twofold, like, I'd had a C-section and was having some complications healing as well. I was having, like, nerve damage, and it was just I couldn't pick up my own baby on my own.
Mhm.
And so I think that kinda got to me a little, like, I was like, "I can't do this on my own physically." Luckily, Mark had, paternity leave, so we were together, and I kind of chalked this all up to new mom, moving, surgery, etcetera. So, I mean, anybody would be in that place with everything that we had going on. But I do remember one day that nobody was at our house, like, we didn't have any visitors, and Mark had to drive to our new home to, like, get the cut the grass, make sure it's ready for us to move when the movers came in weeks or days, I can't even remember, it's a blur at this point. I So he had to drive over to Michigan. He was going to be gone from, like, 5 in the morning until 8 at night. And I was terrified to be alone with my child. I had never been alone with my child at that point, and it was probably 2 to 3 weeks of him being alive. I was terrified. I thought I wouldn't be able to do it. It just and I don't even know what I was terrified of. I was so scared. And the move was kind of like, maybe a good thing in that moment because my parents were back up for, like, 2 weeks to help
Mm,
us move.
mhm.
Mark had got time off between the jobs, so he had paternity leave and then, like, kinda time off to move. So, really, he had 6 weeks off, which was so nice because I needed that.
Mm.
But after the move and after we got settled and everyone went home, it was just me and Augie, and Mark was at work, and I had no friends because we had just moved. I didn't know anybody. There was nobody to call. My parents live in Nashville, so they're 8 hours away. Mark's parents live in Pittsburgh. They're 6.5 hours away. It was just I couldn't even call, like, a neighbor, you know? There was nobody. And so I felt utterly alone.
Yeah, that's awful because I'm sure we all agree that after giving birth, especially after giving birth to your first child, you need that support. You need that emotional and physical support. And I know you got emotional support from your husband and your friends, but
Right.
them not being there in person, I totally relate. And I just wanted to say because as a fellow anxious person, I'm I'm also sitting here like, you know what? I had pretty extreme postpartum anxiety too that I don't think I've ever really addressed. Like I used to have thoughts with Leo where I'd be like, But what if I throw him down the stairs? Like what if I throw him down
Yes.
the stairs?"
Or what if he jumped out of my arms?
Right? Like
What?
the craziest. But I remember specifically I always was really afraid at night. Like I hated
Mhm.
sleeping because I always thought he was going to die in his sleep. He was going to stop breathing. I was going to miss it. And what I want to say is two things. For people who have never experienced anxiety, I don't think as much as they want to try to understand, like they'll never understand how it truly feels inside. Like it is such an overwhelmingly uncomfortable feeling
Yeah.
that you cannot make go away, is how I would describe it. And it's frustrating when people think, "Oh, well, like, stop worrying so much," or "It's fine, like, everything's gonna be okay," and they think it's almost like, "Oh, yeah, like, we're just doing this to ourselves. We're just choosing to be like this."
Yep.
It's the worst feeling. That's just one thing that I wanna say. The second thing I wanna say is I was fortunate enough to have a consistent therapist throughout my
Mm,
postpartum. And we all joke about, Debbie, we love
Debbie.
Debbie, but truly, I mean, I think back to our conversations that she had to talk me off of a ledge of,
Mhm.
like, Gina, you put your baby down, he's swaddled, there's nothing in the crib, the temperature's good, he's going to be okay. She like had to literally like walk me through all that. Did you have any type of support through therapists or anything at this time either?
No. So, I grew up in a family of we don't talk about our feelings.
Mm.
And, like, I was an emotional kid, like, I was I had emotions, and I was always made to feel very dramatic if I expressed those emotions, um, and so I had learned to just kind of shove them down, and that's what I did here too. I mean, I just didn't mental health was not something that I talked about much. Like, I'd done, like, therapy before in college with the college therapist that is provided for you, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
but, like, a very short stint of, like, "Oh, like, the sun's out now, I'm all better." Just and so
Legit.
I didn't really have a much in the way of, like, even language to express how I was feeling. I couldn't even talk to my own mom about it, and, like, my mom's the only person I really trusted with my baby because I knew she was my mom, you know? Her and my husband, of course, but I still didn't feel like I trusted her with my baby, but not my own emotions, and so I really didn't have anyone to talk to or help me kind of even just understand what I was feeling, what I was going through, and I think therapy would have done wonders for me, but I look back and I think I know something was up, but, like, I I think I hid it the whole time. I When I was with my son, I loved him, of course, like, but Mark would get home and I would just crumble. It was like I had to pass the baby off, and if he was late coming home, I was falling apart. I so I have psoriasis and it's not super bad, but I was getting wild flare-ups and I hadn't had a flare-up since sophomore year of college. So my hands were covered in like psoriasis scales and patches and like my legs, and that hadn't happened in a long time, and I was like, why is this happening? Like, what is going on? It didn't connect back like, oh, this could be, anxiety related or mental health related. Um, I just and I felt so like for me, anxiety is very internal and it's in the body. So I
Mhm.
feel like wound, like there's like like something in my chest that's just tight and there's a knot, and it was just always there. And I think it manifested in like control in a way that like this is so insane, but like with sleep, I did research on sleep so hard. I There was like a Facebook group for sleep I was a part of, taking care of babies, like Huckleberry sleep support, like all of this I was doing. I logged every single minute of sleep in Huckleberry, but I also kept an Excel sheet. So
Oh.
I could literally look and see how many, like, what were his exact wake windows? What were, like, it
Yeah.
was crazy. And I thought, he slept through the night. What do I have to do? It was just like this cycle of like control. Like, I had a nanny at that time. Like, Augie had a nanny the first 2.5 years of his life. And so he was here, which was great. But like, I was so rigid just about sleep schedule. When is he going to take a bottle? Is he bottle feeding too much, or do I need to like breastfeed again? Is he breastfeeding too much? Will he not take a bottle? Like, it was just everything so was life and death, and it wasn't.
Did it did it feel life or death? Were you fearful that if someone else stepped in or if he didn't get the sleep, something terrible would happen? Or just talk to us about kind
Yeah,
of what was going through your mind.
it was a lot of like fear of ruining him and like being a bad mom or being even seen as a bad mom if he was crying in public. Like, I didn't uh, I did not go out in public with my son until we did some renovations in the house, and like I couldn't be in the house with him. He was like This was probably like 3 or 4 months. He was 3 or 4 months old. I went to the mall and I walked around the mall because I couldn't be in my house with like a jackhammer going off. And I felt like felt like such an accomplishment at the time, but like I did not, except for walks around the neighborhood, I didn't go anywhere alone. I didn't go to the grocery store. I didn't do anything alone with my baby because I was so scared. And it wasn't scared of like him getting hurt or something. It was just fear of like, what if I don't know what to do in this moment? Or what if he cries in public and people think that I'm a bad mom? It was just things that don't matter, and I can look back and say they don't matter now, but at the time, like, I had very particular triggers. um, my in-laws were particularly triggering because they were wonderful grandparents. I mean, they have 3 other grandchildren. They are wonderful grandparents and, like, would do anything for my kids and for us. But at the time, they didn't do things how I wanted it done. And there were things that were, boundary crossing that I think I was valid in my responses, but I took it to a level that was like, my mother-in-law can't touch my child, and it physically, like, made me cringe the first few months when she would hold him, and I love my mother-in-law. This is not like a slight on her whatsoever. I mean, this was just a little baby who just came out of me, right? And I wanted to get to know him, but, like, what what was it I don't know what it was about that situation that I physically would hurt to have somebody
I
else, like, hold my baby other than my mom.
experienced the same thing, and I think it's something along the lines of this, like, maternal instinct to protect your child. Again, I'm just totally guessing here and speaking for myself, but I think we almost look at our own mothers as, like, a version of us,
Mhm.
so it's not as frightening. It's like, "No, my mom, it's my mom, like, she'll do what I need her to do, it's my mom." But
Yeah.
anybody else, like my mother-in-law, it was like anybody that wanted to hold him, "Oh, like, let me hold the baby." I just wanted to dig my claws in deeper and be
Yes.
like, "Back up, back away."
Yes.
I remember one time she's like, "Go take a nap," and I brought him with me, and I guarantee she was like, "What the actual fuck?"
Yes.
Like, "Just
Yes.
go nap, like, let me watch your baby," and I was
Yes.
just like, "Nope, can't leave my sight," like, I was so protective.
100%. I
Yeah.
remember the first few days, I had been holding Augie and he was napping on me, and my mother-in-law asked me, "Do you think he'll transfer to me so you can go get something done?" And I remember texting you, Gina, and I
I
was just
do
like, "This is
too.
like, how could she even think that there was
I
anything more
know.
important than holding my baby? What am I gonna go do?" I mean, extreme, right? Like,
But I will say too, I think this also speaks to a little of, I think, what I've experienced or I feel so passionately about is moms don't get the support or the acknowledgement in postpartum. It's always
yeah,
about the baby. And I think I felt this way too, that I was shoved aside. I was forgotten. This baby is now the star of the show.
mhm,
And so I am always very, I think, protective of new moms and how people can support them because I think it's completely valid and fair to say in those early days or even months, no,
yeah,
you holding my baby or me wanting to have a contact nap with my baby, that's not actually helpful. Come clean my
yeah,
house. Come make me a meal. And I think we don't necessarily always know what we need when we're in the thick of it. And
yeah,
then people don't also know how to give support there's just so many missed opportunities of a mother-in-law in particular asking, "What is actually helpful
yeah,
right now? What do you actually need?" And I think that's probably just common across the board that if people could just take it a step further or
mhm,
just do something that isn't intrusive, leave a meal at the door or schedule something. I think that goes such a long way. So I
yeah,
know you definitely were feeling it was an extreme, but I think there is like a level of no, actually, mother-in-laws, moms, anybody that's supported, like, no, like, back off, and that's
yeah,
okay too.
Wait, so Maddie, I 100% agree with everything you said, and I just remind me, I have to tell you guys this story, and I low key might like get emotional because it was a very impactful experience that I think is actually just really important to share. But my first flight with Leo, I was like, you would have thought I was going into war. Like, I was preparing myself weeks, months in advance. I was so nervous. And it was mostly because Lee was a very loud crier. He cried anytime he was not asleep in his crib. He always wanted his crib. So I knew without a shadow of a doubt he'd be crying. And so my anxiety was heightened. It was so nerve wracking. We sat down, Chris and I, to a woman. Her name was Jerry. I will never forget her. We called her Grandma Jerry. And she was adorable. clearly had grandkids, and she was, like, kind of playing with Leo. He had to have been, like, 8 months at the time, 8, 9 months. But I'll never forget specifically when the crying started, the sleep cry started, which I knew was inevitable. Flight attendants are coming over, and they're like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And, it's part embarrassment, part, like, I don't know what to do, part is out of my control. But I think she could see I was getting very worked up. I was trying to soothe him, like, "She's okay, it's okay." Da, da, da. Like, see, I am getting teary-eyed. And I remember this perfect stranger rubbed my arm, and she's like, "You're doing great. You're doing great, Mom."
Mm,
I know, right? It was just for the first time. She wasn't like, "Let me take the baby." "Hey, Mom, you're killing it." And
yeah.
I literally will never forget that. And I'm just so thankful. Jerry, if you're listening, thank you. We were going to Michigan, and I just remember being like, the universe put her here, truly, because if it was somebody with their headphones in asleep, who knows? I always
Yeah.
said she was supporting me while I was supporting my son, and it was just the most beautiful thing. And so I think that kind of sums up, Maddie, what you were just trying to say about, like, it's not just about the baby. We need that support
Yeah.
too.
If we could all have a Grandma Jerry.
Oh, bless. Okay, so talk to us now, like, where are you in you're now things are wrong. You know that
Yeah.
this is a to reach a point of maybe unhealthy.
Yeah.
How did you seek help? What were your next steps?
Yeah. Well, I think there were a few things that had scared me. I was alone with Augie overnight, and he was not having a good night. And I remember rocking him. I had to put him back in his crib, and I came back to the bedroom and screamed. Like, I got to a point where, like, in my head, I was like, I could throw him out the window. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't getting any sleep. My husband wasn't here. He was on a work trip. It was so terrifying because I'm like, in the morning, I felt like I was the worst mom ever. I bawled. I just held him and I was like, I'm so sorry. There were moments like that where it was just like these intrusive thoughts that just like I I felt like I never felt like I was gonna hurt him. I knew I would never hurt him, but, like, there were just these
You wanted
thoughts and,
to.
like, I felt like I couldn't be alone with my child or, like, I couldn't handle it almost, and I was like, "That's so like, he's my son." Like, I don't it just got to a point where I knew and I had started talking opening up a little bit to my husband about it, where I just knew, "I can't do this anymore." And I think what was complicated is I didn't have an OBGYN. Like the only doctor that we had had at that point was a pediatrician because, you have to have one for your
Mm,
child. But like I went to my 6-week checkup at 5 weeks right before we moved. And so there was like nothing to catch because
right.
like those forms didn't quite work for me. It was just like it was a lot more like, "Are you thinking about suicide?" And, like, and it's like, yes, I'm crying uncontrollably, but who isn't? You know what I mean? So it's like,
Sure.
they just nothing was ever caught, and I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't have an OBGYN. I didn't have girlfriends here to ask who I should go to. So I Googled. I, like, took a shot in the dark, and I found an OBGYN who I don't know how this happened, but she was the best thing to ever happen to me. She delivered my second child, like, and now I know more of the doctors in the practice. Like, she's known as one of the best when it comes to maternal mental health. And so I went at 10 months postpartum. It took me 10 months to really be able to come to terms that I needed help. And there was a lot of issues obviously in that 10 months, but I could fake it really well. And so nobody really knew, um, except my husband. And I finally broke down in this, OBGYN office and just cried. And it was the first time I said some of these things out loud. And she just was so like, this is normal. She's like, listen, I have been on medication. She was so comforting, but she wasn't just, "Hey, this is normal." She came with solutions that I didn't have. She gave me resources. She prescribed me with medication with Lexapro that has done wonders for my mental health. So, coming to terms with getting help took me, what, a 30-minute appointment to get but it took me 10 months to get there. And that is scary to think because that's a lot of time that I was sitting and not appreciating like my time as a mom. And that's something that I don't want to say I have regrets, but it's something that I will always like struggle with a little bit is that the first 10 months of my son's life, and I'm getting emotional, but like I just wasn't present like I wish I was. And everybody says, um, Gina, I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but there's always the people who it goes so fast, like taking every moment and blah, blah, blah. It's just like
Yeah.
everyone you meet, like how quick it goes, and it does. But it at the time felt like one day with my child felt like 100 years because I was struggling so bad that I felt like I was doing it wrong. I was a bad mom. I had a broken baby. I was broken. And did I love my kid less than somebody who doesn't? So it was a very like, and it still is hard because my son didn't get a version of me that I wish I was. And I think I've learned a lot from that, it's good, but I still to this day, I think am still forever going to work through that emotion of like, I couldn't give my son the best of me when he needed me the most.
I'm gonna say I beg to disagree with that because you did get help, Lo, and you did give your son what he needed. You kept him safe. You loved him more than anything in the world. I think you probably feel like you missed out, but I know that Augie got exactly what he needed, even through the hard parts.
Ugh.
And I know, cried out, sister. It's nice having somebody else emo on this podcast. I'm always the one crying. I can relate as well to wanting to have felt more present because with Zoe, I know I talk about the first 2 years of her life just felt like work. I didn't get to just watch my baby do all of the things that everybody else
Yeah.
was just doing. And so I can wholeheartedly relate to you feeling like you weren't present because I think the joy was truly sucked out of those early
Mhm.
years for me. And it has taken work to look past that and get to the other side of it. And I know for me, therapy was a huge part of being able to get to that place and reframe it for myself, at least, of look how hard we all worked together to get Zoe to where she needed to be, that
Yeah.
I can be kind of proud of the work that I put in and that she put in. I mean, she truly put in so much work. Would love to hear after this visit and this
Mhm.
connection with your OB who props to her. Like we all need that type of OB. What kind of were those next steps on your journey?
Yeah. So getting on medication was honestly life changing for me. It solidified too in my brain that there wasn't something super wrong with me and that it was truly a hormonal imbalance. And this was something that happened to me and not who I was as a human. And so within 6 weeks of getting on meds, I would say I started to feel a little bit more like myself. And I could feel the reason I knew it is because the next time my in-laws came to visit, I didn't have that like anxiety that I was having. I could like give Augie to my mother-in-law, and that, like, cloud had kind of disappeared that I was like, "Thank God." And I think this is just coincidence, but we had, a neighbor move down the street, and turns out I had found my version of Maddie. uh, my neighbor, who we met when Augie was about 10, 11 months, and um, she had a toddler who was the same age, a month older than Augie. So the couple that just had moved in down the street, like not that long earlier, became my walking buddy. We had play dates. Um, and this was probably like God, October-ish. And then like through the next like I'd say 5, 6 months, we became pretty close. It was someone I could talk to. So the medication, having a fellow mom here who I could vent to, I started opening up to her and then to my own mom a little more. And at that point I hadn't gotten any therapy yet, which was a mistake on my part because I think it came out in other ways. But um I do think having the medication and the beginnings of a community uh, changed all of it. Like, my relationship with my son and seeing another mom do it who was so close in proximity was really helpful too.
Well, and I can say too, I remember vividly seeing the change in you as your friend from going from kind of the overthinking or the
Yeah.
rigidity that you mentioned earlier to back to like, you know what? Hey, everything's great. Everything's good. And that's not to say one is right and one is wrong, but to your point, there was such a significant change. And I'm just so glad that you experienced that. And you're still on
Mhm.
medication as of today, right? Did you ever stop?
Yes. No. So I because we got pregnant again, so I have an almost 3-year-old and then Remy is 13 months. I went through his pregnancy on medication. I didn't know if that's what I wanted, but I talked to my doctor and I think it was the only way forward because I had had a miscarriage earlier as well between Augie and Remy. And I just w we talked about it, and she was just kind of like, "I don't want you to go back into that mental state where, is this medication safe for Remy? Is it safer for Remy to have a mom who can handle her anxiety type of thing? What are the risks here?" And we decided together that it was better for me to be the best mom I could be to both my kids. Um, and my pregnancy was different. I think it's a little bit twofold, second time mom and, you know,
Sure.
the medication. But with Remy, it was like night and day. I could give him to like, the help. Oh my god, it was like, "Take Remy or take Augie or ta" you know what I mean? I just became a whole different mom, and I remember when Remy was, like, a few months old and I just bawled to Mark that why couldn't I be this mom to Augie? Because I was so engaged with Remy, and I got to really enjoy my maternity leave. I mean, we didn't have a move or anything in the midst of it, um, but not to say that there weren't struggles with Remy because there were. There was more postpartum rage in my journey with Remy than Augie, and I think that's when I decided to get a therapist. So, the therapy and the Lexapro together has been
Chef's
it just
kiss.
helps me it helps me even just be able to understand what I'm going through, and so, it's made a huge, huge difference. It just getting help in general, like, I can't imagine suffering in silence again for so long.
That was a great way to describe everything that you went through. What would you say to someone in your earlier position where they're
Yeah.
potentially struggling with their mental health, maybe justifying it as all part of the process, afraid to seek help, maybe afraid of medication? What would your
Yeah.
advice be?
I mean, I was all of those things. It was so fearful, and you think that you're abnormal, but you're not. You're n This is normal. We all have a varying degree of normal, and postpartum depression and anxiety is normal. It doesn't mean that it's something you should live with. Getting help is also normal. Having a therapist is normal. And these things don't mean that you love your kid any less, or that you're any less of a mother, or that you are less strong than somebody else. It takes so much strength to ask for help. And I encourage anybody who's going through it, just reach out to one person to talk to. If I would have had one person who knew what I was going through, I think it could have I think I would have gotten help sooner. I don't know that, but getting help, I just think it's so important just even to have someone to talk to.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Truly. It is. And I think it is so hard because again, like I can also relate to, and so can Gina, moving even with two small kids and having to rebuild or not have that community or being the first in your friend group or family to have
Yeah.
a child. Like there are so many situations and scenarios where you might be isolated or your birth or your pregnancy was nothing like that of the other moms that you know. I think there's so many
Yeah.
reasons moms in particular can just feel so isolated or alone in their experience. And so I think you have great advice of just even connecting with one person or seeking a therapist or seeking an OB that might be able to understand what you're going through. And hopefully it can be empowering to feel like you're in control and taking your life back and kind of taking back the reins of I'm doing this for me and for my kids and for my family, and it's baby steps. So I
Yeah.
know you're being hard on
Yes.
yourself for the timing and whatnot, but it truly is. It's baby steps, and then you can start kind of stacking those habits and kind of seeing some of the progress.
Yes.
And
And you
yes,
can't be the best mom you can be if you're not a good version of you and if you're not healthy yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, as the saying goes. And it's so true that, I've learned that about moms. We have to take time for ourselves and make sure that we're healthy because we are superhumans that we need to recharge and be able to be the best we can for our kids. What we go through is nobody else could do it. Dads could never. So
forget it.
moms are superhumans, honestly.
Yeah, and speaking of baby steps too, for anybody potentially considering reaching out for help, it doesn't need to be all or nothing. You don't have to commit to years of therapy and years of medication. You can just, chat with a therapist one time. Or see a doctor, see your OB and say, "Hey, I think I want to try out the lowest dose of a medicine just to see if it takes the edge off." Like it is built for baby steps. So just keep that in mind as well.
It's great.
Lo, thank you so much for being here. Truly, I think this topic is going to resonate with so many of our listeners. I know it's very vulnerable. And so we just appreciate you being so open and honest. And hopefully, we are reaching somebody that might hear this and think, all right, it's time to get some help. So just want to thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you for having me. I am honored.
Love it. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in this week and sticking around for this conversation. We are talking to another mom next week who has twins, another one on the way, is a mompreneur. So we have some exciting guests lined up to come, some more great conversations. So thank you, Lo, for joining us and being part of our pod and our journey. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in each and every week and giving us feedback and helping us grow.
We'll see you next time.
And that concludes your free therapy session, brought to you by two people with lots of opinions and zero certifications. Don't forget to bill your insurance, emotionally or otherwise. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at GraceWhoPod. That's Grace, WHO Pod.
Tune in next time for another deep dive into something we'll probably overthink and under-resolve. And while our search for grace continues, let's at least try to find a little joy in between.